So, I want you to try something for me. It is really simple, and do not worry, nobody is watching. Just blink.
Just blank?
Yeah, go ahead. Just close your eyes and open them. Do it right now.
That took, what, maybe a third of a second?
Roughly. About 300,000 microseconds, if we were being precise.
Right.
Just a fleeting moment.
Yeah.
A totally throwaway action. Now, what if I told you that in the exact time it took you to close and open your eyelids, over 2,000 entire universes were born, lived out their complete multi-billion-year life cycles, and died?
It is wild. And here's the part that really kind of hurts my brain. On the flip side of that, what if the entire history of our universe,
It's the whole thing.
everything, from the Big Bang to the formation of the Earth to the dinosaurs to you listening to this right now, what if all 13.8 billion years of it is just a 58 microsecond glitch to something larger than us?
It sounds like high-concept sci-fi, I know, but we're not talking about fiction today. We're looking at a paper that claims this is the actual literal mathematical reality of where we live.
It really reframes the whole phrase in the blink of an eye, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. So, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are unpacking a real heavy hitter. It is a paper that honestly kept me up last night just staring at the ceiling.
I'm not surprised.
It is titled Chronological Relativity and Lifespan Scaling Across Nested Manifolds in the Infinite Fractal Descent Model.
Quite a mouthful, yeah. It was published in February 2026 by Nkamgalan Nizanjargal.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive today is to decode this infinite fractal descent model, or IFD. We are going to look at why this researcher thinks reality is not made of stuff, but of processes.
Yes.
We're going to find out why gravity might actually be a form of data compression, and ultimately we have to ask the big question, are we just fuel for a universe downstairs?
Which is a terrifying thought.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a model that demands you completely change your mental image of the universe. You really have to stop thinking of the cosmos as a museum of static objects.
Right. The paper makes this distinction immediately. It says we need to shift from nouns to verbs.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Traditional physics, Newtonian, even a lot of quantum mechanics tends to treat the universe as a collection of things. Nouns.
Right. Like an electron is a thing.
A planet is a thing. They just sit there in space. But Nizanjargal argues that reality is actually a fluidic computer.
A cosmic FPGA. That was the term that jumped right out at me from the text.
Yes, a field programmable gate array.
Now, for those of us who are not computer engineers, help me visualize that.
Yeah.
So when I think of a computer, I think of, my laptop.
Sure. So most standard computer chips are hardwired. They do exactly what they were built to do. Their physical architecture is completely fixed.
Yep.
An FPGA is different. It is hardware that can be reprogrammed on the fly. You can change the actual physical circuitry just by changing the code.
Wow.
The IFD model suggests the universe is exactly like that. The laws of physics, gravity, electromagnetism, they're not these immutable commandments carved in stone tablets.
So they are software.
They are emergent firmware, that is the term. They are essentially the operating system running on a vacuum substrate.
Okay, but I have to push back on this universe as a computer idea slightly, because simulation theory is super popular on the internet, but usually it just feels like a philosophy game.
Right, the brain in a vat ideal.
Exactly. But this paper seems to be claiming something much more physical. If it is all just code or verbs, why can I physically knock on this table? Why is there mass?
That is the million-dollar question right there. If everything is just processing, where does the solidity come from? The paper argues that mass is not a primary substance. There is no little hard nugget of matter at the bottom of the atom.
So what am I touching? If I hold a rock, what is that?
You are touching pattern coherence. You are touching a resonant standing wave that has essentially locked itself in a loop.
A wave stuck in a loop.
Think of a whirlpool in a river. The water is flowing through it constantly. It is never the exact same water, but the shape of the whirlpool stays completely stable.
And it feels solid if you put your hand in it.
Because of the force, yes. The paper describes this using a very specific geometry called the 720-degree orthogonal lock.
720 degrees. A circle is 360. So we are talking 2 full rotations.
Yes, but not just spinning in a flat circle like a record. You have to visualize a 4D vertex.
But my brain is stretching already.
Imagine a frequency, a wave of energy that has to circle itself twice through 2 interlocking circles that are spinning at 90 degrees to one another.
Like a chain link. Or maybe a gyroscope.
A spinning, vibrating chain link is a really good way to picture it. That specific geometry traps the energy. It prevents the wave from dissipating back out into the vacuum.
Oh, I see.
That knot of energy is what we perceive as a solid particle. An electron, a proton, they are just stable data structures.
That is a wild image. Matter is just knotted light. But if mass is just a data structure, that has to change how we think about gravity, right? Because usually we are taught that mass causes gravity. Big, heavy thing pulls little light thing.
And in this model, it still does, but the mechanism is totally different. The paper calls gravity computational pressure or scale resistance.
Scale resistance.
Think about it this way. If the universe is a computer processing information, that processing has physical limits. As you try to pack more and more information, more complex knots of matter into a single space, the system pushes back.
Oh, like trying to stream a 4K movie on a dial-up connection.
That is a perfect analogy. That
Yeah.
buffering, that lag, that is gravity. It is the friction of information processing as it tries to step down through the layers of reality.
So gravity is not pulling me down. The universe is just lagging underneath me.
In a sense, yes, it is the resistance of the substrate. And this leads us to the biggest problem with a computational universe. If you have a system that is constantly rewriting itself, recursive computation, you're going to run into errors.
The paper called this recursive drift.
Right. Think about making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy.
Eventually, you just get a black smudge. You lose all the definition.
Exactly. Small errors, discretization errors accumulate over time. In a universe as complex as ours, if that drift went unchecked, the physics would just break down. The system would either explode into chaos or freeze up completely. It would not be stable enough for us to exist.
But we are here. The table is solid. The sun comes up. So how is the universe fixing the photocopier?
This is where Nussen-Jargal introduces the Samson V2 controller.
I have to say, Samson V2 sounds less like a fundamental law of physics and more like a high-end subwoofer system for a home theater.
It does have a certain ring to it, but for anyone with an engineering background, the concept is going to sound very familiar. It is a PID controller.
PID, proportional integral derivative.
Exactly. It is the exact same logic used in your car's cruise control, or a drone keeping itself level, or even just a standard thermostat. A PID controller monitors a system and makes constant, tiny adjustments to keep it stable.
Okay.
The paper argues that the fundamental forces of physics are actually just these three control mechanisms acting on spacetime.
Okay, this I need to break down, because saying gravity is a PID controller is a huge leap. Let us start with the P, proportional.
The proportional term K sub p. This handles immediate error. If a car hits a bump, the suspension snaps back. In physics, the paper identifies this as electromagnetism.
Why electromagnetism?
Because it is the elasticity of the lattice. If an atom gets pushed out of place or a charge is imbalanced, electromagnetism snaps it back right now. It is the immediate correction force. It holds the structure together against instant disruption.
Okay, that tracks. Immediate correction. Then we have the I, integral.
The integral term, K sub I. This looks at accumulated past error. If the system has been lagging for a long time, if the car is dragging uphill, the integral term kicks in to push it forward. It deals with the history of the system.
Right.
The paper maps this to dark energy.
Right. Dark energy, the mysterious force that is making the universe expand faster and faster.
Yes. Think about it. Why is the universe expanding? In this model, it is because the system is correcting for lag accumulated over billions of years. It is the memory of the lattice pushing back against the drift. It is adding energy to the system to catch up to the processing requirements.
That actually makes a weird amount of sense. Dark energy is just the gas pedal to compensate for lag.
Which brings us to the D derivative.
K sub D.
The derivative term predicts future error. It stops the system from overshooting. If you are accelerating towards a red light, the derivative is what tells you to ease off so you do not crash. It applies the brakes.
And that is gravity.
Gravity and inertia, they are the damping forces. They prevent the universe from expanding too fast or reacting too violently. They smooth everything out.
So let me just recap this cosmic engineering for a second. Electromagnetism keeps the steering wheel straight. Dark energy hits the gas when we lag. And gravity hits the brakes so we do not crash.
Precisely. And the goal of this entire controller is to keep the universe at the Mach 1 constant.
The Goldilocks zone.
Right. Self-organized criticality. The universe has to be stable enough to have structure, so we do not dissolve, but flexible enough to actually compute and change. Without the Samson V2 controller, reality just crashes. It prevents the blue screen of death for the cosmos.
It is fascinating to think of these forces not as separate things, but as functional parts of a machine. Like they exist to do a job. But we have not even touched the part of the paper that genuinely kept me up last night, the nested manifolds. All the time stuff.
Ah, yes, chronological relativity. This is really the heart of the IFD model.
The idea that we are not the only layer of reality.
No, we are sandwiched.
Hmm.
The model outlines a clear hierarchy. There is the parent universe, n+1, which is the layer above us. Then there's the local observable universe, which is n, that is us.
And finally, the sub-universe.
Right, n-1, the layer below us.
And these are not parallel dimensions like in a comic book where there is an evil version of me wearing a goatee. They are literally nested, like Russian dolls.
Correct. The sub-universe is inside us, and we are inside the parent universe.
And there's a specific number that dictates the relationship between these dolls, the universal scaling factor.
Yes. The symbol is S. The number is 7.5 times 10 to the 21.
That is a massive number, 7.5 sextillion.
Yeah.
Where does Chronological even get this specific number? Is it just random?
No, it is actually derived from a strict mass ratio. They compare the total mass of our observable universe to the mass of a standard stellar mass black hole.
Why compare the entire universe to a black hole?
Because in this model, black holes are the connection points. They are the bottlenecks between the layers. The ratio tells you how much stuff fits into the processor versus how much stuff is in the whole system.
Okay, so this number 7.5 times 10 to the 21 is the scaling factor, and this dictates time.
It dictates the clock speed of each layer. Because the layers are different sizes, they experience that scale resistance we talked about differently.
Let's just go back to that number from the intro then. 58 microseconds.
Right. If you apply the scaling factor to time, you get a genuinely terrifying result. To an observer in the parent universe, the n+1 layer, the ones holding our snow globe, effectively, our entire 13.8 billion year history transpires in approximately 58 microseconds.
That is nothing. That is less than a blink. That is a glitch.
To them, yes, we are a millisecond history. We are just a quantum fluctuation that appears and disappears before they can even register it.
It makes you feel incredibly insignificant. We think we are this grand ancient civilization, but we are just a spark.
But then we look down.
Exactly. Look at the sub-universe, the n-1 layer. These are the universes that exist inside the black holes of our universe.
And because the scaling works both ways.
To us, their lives are instant. But to them, they have their own 33 billion year history. They have stars rising and falling, civilizations rising and falling. And the whole thing happens in about 10 to the negative 13 seconds of our time.
And that is the blink. That is the blink. In the 300,000 microseconds it takes you to blink, a single black hole in our universe can render and complete over 2,100 distinct universal iterations.
2,100 universes born and died while I blinked.
It creates this strange hierarchy where age is really just an illusion of scale. We feel ancient, we feel like the universe has been here forever, but to the layer above, we have not even happened yet. We are practically timeless to the layer below and incredibly fleeting to the layer above.
This really puts the spotlight on black holes. Because traditionally, we think of black holes as these scary dead-end pits. You fall in, you get crushed, game over.
That is a singularity view. Infinite density, physics breaks down. The IFD model challenges that completely. It says black holes are not trash cans. They are fragmentation engines. They are processors.
Scale crushing. That was the term in the paper.
Yes. When matter from our universe enters a black hole, it undergoes scale crushing. It gets fragmented. The complex data structures, the knots or the 720-degree locks we talked about earlier, they get shredded.
But data does not just disappear. You cannot just delete mass.
No. It gets reformatted. It gets turned into ghost particles.
And the paper actually points to real-world data for this, right? This is not just pure theory.
It points directly to the IceCube Observatory in Antarctica. They detect high-energy astrophysical neutrinos. These are particles that pass through almost everything, barely interacting with matter at all.
Usually we think they come from supernovae or blazars.
Right, but in the IFD model, neutrinos are the leakage. They are the exhaust from the layer above us.
So the neutrinos passing through my body right now, those are the shredded remains of matter from the parent universe.
That is the theory. Matter falls into a black hole in the parent universe. It gets crushed. It leaks down into our layer as a burst of neutrinos. And that burst, that is the Big Bang for us.
Okay, wait. Let me sit with that for a second.
Dan.
So the Big Bang, our Big Bang, was just the exhaust pipe of a parent universe's black hole.
A regenerative cosmic octave, that is what the paper calls it. The universe is a self-consuming regenerative algorithm. The death of matter in the layer above becomes the birth of energy in the layer below.
That is beautiful, in a way, but also really terrifying. It connects everything perfectly.
It does, and it actually solves the problem of what came before the Big Bang. The answer is simply the parent universe's physics.
But there is a logistical problem here that I cannot get past. If the parent universe is running in microseconds, and we are running in billions of years, and the subuniverse is running in femtoseconds, how does the whole machine not tear itself apart? How do you sync that?
That is the synchronization problem. And the paper proposes something called omega time.
Like a master clock.
Exactly. Think of it like genlog in video editing. You have all these different frame rates, but you need one master pulse to keep them aligned so the audio matches the video. Omega time is the universal clock that ensures causal consistency across all the layers.
And it uses that 7-5-35 resonance triangle.
Right. That is the harmonic tuning. Micro 7, meso is 5, macro is 35. It relates back to the Mark I constant. It ensures that even though the gears are spinning at vastly different speeds, the teeth still mesh. If that resonance was off, the nested dolls would crash into each other. It is what keeps the fractal completely stable.
So let us zoom out for a second.
Huh.
We have a universe that is a fluid computer. It is kept stable by a PID controller disguised as gravity and dark energy. It is feeding matter into black holes to create new universes below us. All while we are just a fleeting thought in the mind of a parent universe.
It forces a massive shift in perspective. We are obsessed with our own longevity, our own timeline. But in the IFD model, there is no beginning or end. There is only the process.
The verb.
The verb. We are a nexus semitone lift in a cosmic song. We are just one note in an infinite scale.
I love the phrasing, but I cannot help but go to a darker or maybe just more utilitarian place.
Go on.
If our black holes are engines that process mass to create energy for the subuniverses, and if the parent universe's black holes process mass to create us,
You were wondering about the why.
yeah, are we just fuel? Is the entire point of our 13.8 billion years of history just to gather enough mass, condense it into black holes, and crush it so the next reality can have its turn?
It is a totally valid interpretation. If the universe is a self-consuming algorithm, then consumption is the point. We consume the past to create the future. We consume our galaxy to create the next generation of sub-universes.
We are the metabolic process of a larger organism.
We are the mitochondria of the cosmos.
That is incredibly humbling. And it makes me look at the stars differently. Not as distant lights, but as future processing nodes.
It suggests we are not isolated. We are deeply mathematically connected to layers of reality, infinitely larger and infinitely smaller than ourselves. We are the bridge.
Middle management of the cosmos.
If you want to put it that way, yes.
Yeah.
We manage the flow of data from the parent to the child.
Well, I think our local processing time is running out. This has been a trip through the infinite fractal descent model. It is dense, but it changes how you look at everything.
A truly fascinating journey.
I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over. We talked about how we might be the fuel for the sub-universe. But if the parent universe sees our entire history as a 58 microsecond glitch, do they even know we are here? Are we a feature of their system? Or are we just background noise? A rounding error in their operating system? Something to think about next time you blink. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the fractal nature of our existence. Stay curious.